All right, it's really very fantastic to be back with you. It's Crossfire with DAPO and ISHIOMA. And as a matter of fact, thank God it's Friday. And you know that on the show, it's always Feedback Friday. We try as much as possible to provide all updates that we have on so many stories that have been trending in the course of the week. And we will not do anything but that on the show today. We have fantastic analysts to be a part of the show today. And we definitely will be engaging them on a lot of stories, trending. But before we go, fully into the package today, let's meet ISHIOMA looking beautiful for Friday. I mean, really.
Good morning, DAPO. Good morning, DAPO. Good morning, Nigerians. Welcome to Crossfire. Yes, today I am the referee.
All right.
Because there's going to be a lot of firing today.
She's the referee. And as a matter of fact, I mean, if you look at ISHIOMA's stop, that actually reflects more like, a referee, and all of that. So I would see as much as, officiating that ISHIOMA can possibly carry out today. Before we went on a short break, let's quickly make some information available out there. U.S. warns citizens against traveling to 20 Nigerian states. They warn that you should not go to 20 Nigerian states. Now, the United States of America has warned its citizens against traveling to 20 states in Nigeria due to security concerns. Now, according to the travel advice on the Department of State's website, the northeastern states, Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, where the Boko Haram terrorists were more brutal, topped the list. So they made available additional states that U.S. citizens in Nigeria should not go to. We have the likes of Bayelsa, Bauchi, Delta State, Gombe State, Imo State, Jigawa State, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Niger, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, and Zamfara State. Now, that borders very seriously on security tips and analysis by the United States government. We'll be talking about that in the course of the show. Buhari urged Niger Delta to support government cleanup effort. Now, it's becoming really very mind-boggling and disturbing that the Niger Deltans, in the bid to get government's attention, are worsening the case of the state of the ground or the environment, as it were, in the Niger Delta, because the more pipelines you bump, the more spillage the land experience, and the worse, the environment even gets. And so the president is called on the Niger Delta community, especially the youth, to support government's effort at cleaning Ogoni land. The reason is just really very simple. If Ogoni land is being cleaned up and it takes like 10 years or 5 years or as the case may be, 2 years, 3 years, then we can determine what number of years we will require to clean up the entire Niger Delta. So let's see how much of that we can discuss on the show. Now, militancy, illegal structures at Arekpo, Ikorodu to go. Now, the Air Force has reinforced their efforts to ensure that we have security in a few environments or places in Lagos State especially. Arekpo is just a boundary, not far. Lagos State and Ogun State shares that boundary very effectively. And Ikorodu is in Lagos State, and security forces say uncompleted structures, houses built on the right of the way, and isolated bushes in Lagos and Ogun Riverine communities pose threats and must be dismantled. Now, Acting Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris, who was in the area yesterday, told ground forces to demolish houses belonging to militants, on that particular axis. And we will come back. When we come back from this short break, we will tell you more stories, and then we'll go deep into the show. You will enjoy this package. Just stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
You're welcome back, and this is the Crossfire on Wazobia Max UHF 57. Like Dapo said, we have really interesting issues and topics to look at today. But let's see how much more stories that BANJO has on his list.
All right. Let us quickly start on this note. Rio Olympics. Now, this is really very interesting. For me, it's a mixed feeling, sad and happy at the same time. Etebo scores 4 goals as Nigeria defeats Japan. And it's really very unfortunate. This was dream for they were stranded in Atlanta, and they got into Brazil about 5 hours into their first match, and eventually they still won. Now, the question, that is really, really very mind-boggling is that, okay, fine, Nigeria eventually beat them 5-4, against Japan to go on top of Group B in the Olympics, in the Rio Olympics. Now, it is also very interesting that we make this available to you, that this dream team suffered a lot of setbacks. They were stranded in Atlanta. Eventually, they got in about 5 hours. They've not rested. They went into the match, determined and focused. And then what we'll be talking to our analyst on the show this morning is something that will interest you,
Particularly also the speech made by the Minister for Youth.
All right, we'll talk about it when we come back. Let's quickly meet our guest. First on the list is, I don't even know how to call Kive sometimes, but I mean, let's just give him one of the titles. He's a social commentator, he's a political analyst, he's just, an all-round person. Let's meet Kive. Kive, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to have you on the show today. All right. Now, another very interesting person to meet is one time, he was a presidential candidate in the last election, and it's no other person but Daniel Akinlami. He's a public affairs analyst. Daniel, good to have you on CROSSFIRE.
Thank you.
Welcome to CROSSFIRE.
Thank you for having me.
Now, gentlemen, what is wrong with us as a nation? I don't want to waste time. What is wrong with Nigeria as a nation? Now, we thought the problem that we had within the country is just okay, and all of that.
Just
how come the problem just trickles into everything that we do? The way we do business, the way
caliber of leaders we have.
the way we do business, everything that we do. There is this Nigerian factor. In fact, sometime next week, we intend to talk about the Nigerian factor and what is Nigerian factor. A lot of people say Nigerian factor, Nigerian factor. And the Nigerian factor came into sports, again, just a few hours ago. And I mean, you could see we all are familiar with the story. What exactly is wrong with us? Let me start with Daniel. What exactly is wrong with us?
Well, I think to put it rightly, we have institutional problems. Then we have systemic corruption. And we also have lack of good leadership that has made Nigeria to recede in global reference over the time. Now, what made it really alarming now is the fact that the level of incompetence being demonstrated by individuals manning different ministries, departments, and different aspects of the government job. Now, in the past few years, 16 years, as we've usually been saying, since 1999, that PDP took over, these problems have been there all the way from the military era. This institutionalized indiscipline, this systemic corruption has been there all this while. Now, for the past 16 years, PDP, at some point, maybe by stroke of luck, were able to get some high caliber professionals to mass some areas, notwithstanding the systemic corruption that's continued to go on unabated. And I think some of them were able to demonstrate with the little resources that truly got to their hand from government, they were able to demonstrate good ability in leadership. We should give kudos to some of them. There are some names, I don't want to mention some names now, there are some individuals who really did well under PDP during the era.
But now, come to talk about the sport ministry as a whole. Come to talk about the sport ministry. There is no problem. We have people.
Yes, even the sport ministry, when the likes of Bolaji Abdullahi was in charge, this NFF institutional crisis was there. The sports ministry under him, National Sport Commission, all of them, they still had the same crisis of not getting funds, people mismanaging funds, people not placing priority. But they were managed because we had competent leader at the helm. The crises were there, but they were managed to the extent that we didn't have national embarrassment because we had a competent man in charge. Now, why it's becoming an embarrassment now is simply because that competence is lacking.
First, competence together with patriotism.
First, we've not faced this institutional crisis. We've not dealt with the systemic corruption in these institutions. They are still there. But it's now worse now simply because the people in charge are not competent.
All right, Kive, let's take, knowing fully well that, problems in Nigeria, or the Nigerian problems, very systematic, and endemic too. The truth is just that the carcinogenic tendency seems to be creeping into virtually every, nooks and cranny of the Nigerian, state. What exactly is the problem with us?
I've always said that any society in the world where there is no punishment for wrongdoing, people will keep doing things wrong. Nigeria, I'll agree with Daniel, we've had systemic and institutional problems for so long. People do whatever they like, and nothing happens to them. Ministers, I don't see why a country should appoint ministers. They don't give them KPIs, they don't give them things that they should achieve. And if they don't achieve these things, there should be a situation where they would remove them. How many ministers have been removed in Nigeria? You see this man that is a sports minister, to me, to be honest, it's disgraceful that we have such a man as a sports minister, or even as a minister at all. Because Nigeria is a country where you have people in sensitive positions, people that are not even supposed to be managers in small businesses. You put them as ministers. I'm so disappointed in President Buhari's Federal Executive Council because, to me, this is one of the most incompetent Federal Executive Council I've seen in Nigeria. Even during the military era, you had people that had more competence as ministers. Look at many of them. I'm not saying all of them, but look at many of them, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but one bad apple can spoil the whole basket. Anyway.
You understand?
One bad apple can spoil the whole basket.
And many of these guys that are incompetent, I don't want to mention their names, many of them are the people that are actually closer to the president. And to be honest, the buck stops at the table of the president. Whatever these ministers do, rub off on the president. And if the president cannot take action on these ministers, then it's.
Maybe there are no feedback mechanism. Maybe the president is not even aware that some things are, maybe some ministries are actually sitting on a time bomb.
DAPO, are you aware?
Because this was also, this embarrassment, this national embarrassment was also carried on most of the international media agencies and houses. I actually had to take clips of this. And even to refer to Nigeria, to say the United States of Nigeria,
do you know how the Nigerian team got to Brazil? It was Delta Airlines. Because I was seeing some people saying the vice president intervened. That's a lie. I was on Delta Airlines website, and they were cashing trips to Nigeria. They had it there that they actually paid for the Nigerian trip to Brazil. Is this not a disgrace? A country of Nigeria's caliber, you had your team in Atlanta for more than how many weeks, and you can't get them out to Brazil, and the minister is still there. The minister has reached Brazil even before the team. What a disgrace!
It's really very disturbing.
You know, the fundamental thing in the whole of this is the fact that in 2015, President Buhari and former President Goodluck Jonathan were the two clear choices before the people. And the people can only get what they deserve.
Okay, I'm going to interject.
People can get what they deserve.
Because those are the two.
Nigerians deserve better.
Two major.
You were a presidential candidate. Given all circumstance, favoring your campaign and you emerging, as the president of Nigeria, with your credibility and a few things that you probably have written down on paper, because it becomes an experience when you had that opportunity. So we are projecting you to have been the president of Nigeria. What would you have done differently, Daniel?
Well, I think without us missing the words, what the president ought to have done, I'll put it succinctly, that it shouldn't have delayed the appointment of these ministers for 6 months.
Okay, he failed on that.
First instance.
He failed on that. Okay.
Because that 6 months of vacuum gave room for all this complacency that eventually collapsed policies and the direction of the government, especially the one that eats the economy as well. So, and I think beyond that, the government should have been proactive. Be far proactive. Why did we have 2 months?
Aside from the fact
transition?
that, we had a delay in the choice of people that the president should work
definitely.
with?
Yes.
What other things would you
there
have
are
done
concerns
differently?
in practically most of the areas of the government, especially the economy. And even before we zero in on this sports minister we're talking about, there are concerns on the economy, and there are also concerns on the issues of Niger Delta militancy. I personally believe the Niger Delta issue, the president should have treated it in a different way.
What would you have done?
The president should have adopted diplomacy, to be sincere. Obasanjo did the same thing, it didn't work. So Yar'Adua knew that he could not continue that same approach. That's why he introduced the amnesty program. So what the president should have done is to take the amnesty to the next level, to create the post-amnesty sustainable program. That we create another channel under which some of these beautiful...
Does that mean you don't believe in restructuring Nigeria?
No, the restructuring is a different thing. Even before
because
we've
seen that restructuring
given the circumstances.
problem. So
we can't bring in restructuring to this. Why I said restructuring is a different thing. Why you are bringing the whole country to discuss restructuring, governance must go on.
Exactly.
So restructuring, a government that wants to implement an agenda of restructuring now will not get it done within a year.
Yeah, because the problem we are
you
really
need the National
experiencing now is
Assembly
that...
along. So while you are discussing restructuring, governance must go on.
Yeah, it's just like while you are fighting corruption, you still need to ensure that
to a large extent, that place was volatile. So you needed more of diplomacy and politics to achieve stability. And over the time, we realized that force couldn't get much desired result in that region. So beyond that as well, and I think the idea that the people that campaign with you, the people that went on campaign rally, on podium, danced, shouted, changed with you, should be the only people that should be your cabinet has been totally foretelled. Especially those who have journeyed with you from AMPP to CPC to APC, and you think the best way to compensate them is to put them into all this cabinet without considering their strength and capability. So that decision alone, we can see where it has led the government.
All right,
so
Kive, well, I mean, the president just spoke. You would have done the same thing, or will you have worked in his cabinet, considering a couple of things that he intends to do differently?
The thing is, Nigeria has socio-political and economic issues. Okay. So no matter what you do in terms of stopping militancy or Boko Haram and all those issues, if you don't solve the socio-political and economic issues and the restructuring of Nigeria, those things will keep reoccurring. Even if you dialogue, you use the carrot and stick.
You have been pronounced as the minister of Niger Delta under Daniel Akelami's cabinet.
Yes.
What would you do at the Niger Delta? What are the steps you will take to probably, have a level of peace?
Obviously, you will dialogue with them. Okay. That is standard. Okay. You will dialogue with them if you know the right people to dialogue with. If they are not ghosts, and you have to also make sure that your security forces are armed and ready to function if those people refuse to dialogue. Okay. And then you must solve the socio-political and economic issues vis-a-vis dialoguing, right? And also restructure Nigeria. Government after government have refused to restructure Nigeria. And look at Nigeria today. We have worse economic issues. So how can you stop militancy? You can't. It's impossible. Because those people see it as a route to make money.
There's a vacuum and it needs to be filled.
I've said this several times. These people are mere criminals. That's the way I see them. Even though the Niger Delta has fundamental issues to resolve. But they are only criminals. They just want to make money. And in any society where survival is almost impossible, people will do things that are criminal. You see, because
in an environment where we are complaining that the environment in the Niger Delta is in the state in which it is, problem caused by the government because they didn't manage the IOC and the NOCs well. And over time, we have had criminals, just like Kive said, who have been engaged in one form of vandalism or the other, and all of that. And the entire Niger Delta environment is in the state in which it is. Now, destroying more pipelines and causing more spillage and endangering the environment the way is that the right way to go?
No, but,
the Avengers are worsening the situation.
The truth at the end of the day is even the people themselves are not 100% sincere. Now, they have representatives in the legislative arm of the government. And the truth, we have already, laid this down on CROSSFIRE before, that the legislative, they play a major role in restructuring Nigeria, in making sure that Nigeria gets to the next level. Now, they have representatives. Tell me one representative from any of these regions in the Niger Delta which have put forward a bill or has even made sure that there's speedy passage of the petroleum industry bill. Because we know that the petroleum industry bill solves this issue, the issue between the NOCs and the IOCs, but have any of them come forward to put something concrete on the table? So at the end of the day, you wonder exactly, even the people who are blowing up the pipelines, what exactly is their motive? What exactly are they avenging? They came out yesterday to say a lot of things that they want. They say that the federal government have neglected them, but do they also understand that the Ministry of Niger Delta is also a representative of the federal government in the Niger Delta region? But how proactive have they been to tell their representatives to say, give us good governance? These are some of the things we desire from you. But we've not seen that happen.
But you know one thing,
so you say the people themselves are fraudulent.
I don't want us to lose the focus on the salient reasons for this crisis. Many people many people have predicted that Niger Delta will be like this when Buhari won the election. Yes. Now,
so it's very possible that what we have right now is political.
The crisis is largely political. We shouldn't deceive ourselves. It's largely political.
Because, I mean, and that is why came out really very strong to say there will not be peace in the Niger Delta.
So that's why many people have suggested to President Buhari, even UK government suggested as well, that he shouldn't approach this issue with the military force. It's just more of political coloration all over it. So, and he will do more for himself and for the economy to approach them with carrot and stick. Not
carrot and stick approach,
not one way military force. And I think beyond this, I think we should begin to look at the way out of this political quagmire and national embarrassment like United States of Nigeria that we started with. And part of the problem we've been facing for years, that we lack strong democratic institutions. In fact, some of us that participated in the election that probably didn't make it to the last race, that supported Buhari, part of the reason why we're supporting Buhari is simply because we are hoping that he will build the institutions. Now, for example, we begin to avoid having some caliber of people in the federal cabinet the moment we have a clause in the constitution that stipulates that when the president forwards the ministerial nominees to the Senate, he must attach their cabinet. When we know the position, so when we know the position the president is nominating you for, people can tackle you before
you can be questioned and queried along your competency.
You are saying this because you are talking from a situation where we have a legislature that is doing the right thing. The Nigerian legislature, from time immemorial, even if they take a goat to that legislature to go and that is, they appoint a goat for a position, they will still screen that person and pass the person. Because we all know that this legislature we have today, both the Senate and the House of Reps, majority of them are there for their own personal gains. And most of these guys that are appointed, they will pass through that screening somehow. Whether through back door or through somebody giving something to somebody, I don't know. But from experience, we've seen that. How many people have they refused in that legislature that have not been screened and passed for all positions?
Even those
both
who have
ambassadorial, ministerial, and MDAs.
Even for one of the ambassadorial nominees that was interviewed, that could not recite the national pledge.
Is it today?
You know what? You know what this will do is simply to raise the bar. The leadership of the executive has a lot to offer the country, to inspire the country. If the president push for a bill which will make this as a provision before becoming a minister, is going to redefine the standard. I tell you, within 2, 3, or 4 sessions of forwarding ministerial nominees to the Senate will begin to imbibe this. The first attempt, it may not make a big difference, but you will see that some of the nominees will even work hard to go there, not to disgrace themselves.
Exactly.
They will go and work hard because you know the ministry they want to put you already.
They will know that
so
it's not going to be politically influenced.
Some of them will even put down their goals and what they will achieve, which they don't do now. Some of them will start putting down what their agenda they will pursue.
So if eventually
so
you are given this office, what would you do differently?
Yes. So
but gentlemen,
Yeah.
having found ourselves in this issue now, we need to correct some of these abnormalities. Do you think the president needs to reshuffle his cabinet?
Obviously. There is no doubt about it.
This
cabinet is one of the weakest that Nigeria has ever had.
They can't take Nigeria to the next level, right?
Apart from reshuffling the cabinet, I've said it, we should have KPIs for these ministers.
There should be an appraisal. There should be an appraisal.
Those appraisal levels, they should be let go.
Okay, gentlemen. Before we take more comments, we'll quickly go on a short break where we'll come back. We'll continue our analysis. We'll be right back after this. Don't go.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.